Welcome to another Winning Wednesdays again with your guy, Coach Johnson. How's everybody feeling? How's everybody feeling, man? I'm gonna let y'all know a little bit about my week, y'all. So my week has been catastrophic. Like it's just been insane. Like I don't even know how to explain it, but it's just like everywhere. I don't even know. Like my week's just been crazy. Like every day is just something new. Like and it's good. Like don't get it messed up. Like it's good. You know, something you have your good days, something you have your bad days, but mostly I had some good days. Definitely just took a test in statistics of psychology. Definitely nervous. Definitely don't know how I did on the test. So let's cross your fingers. I got about what, like I got like a year and a half till I graduate. So, yeah, that's basically what I was doing this whole week. Just basically trying to figure out how long I got to graduate, what class I got to take, the test scores and everything like that. So, that's it for me. How's everybody doing? I see the chat coming in. What's up, Don? What's up, Jada? What's up, Asita? How's everybody doing today? Like, how's everybody doing? Let me know how you guys doing in the chat. What's up, Kayla? How are you feeling? Y'all, also, guys, today we do have a special guest coming on too. She's gonna be coming on in a few. We're gonna make sure everybody come in, say how hellos. What's up, Jada? Let's go. Yes, sir. What's up, Dante? Yes, sir. What's up, Jada? How Jada? Proud of you. Okay, thank you, Jada. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. But yeah, how's everybody week been going? Like since last Wednesday. How's everybody week been going so far? Kayla said it was good. Was good. Okay. Okay. What about you, Jade? What about you, Dante? How you guys week been? Let me know how you guys week been. Like I said, your mind's been productive, but like it's been his days. Like I be like, oh my gosh, when is this day going to be over? Like, Dante said, I'm feeling good. I just got out of chair practice. Hey, listen, them getting out of practices at 6 o'clock in high school be crazy because like like once you got out of practice, you want to go in the house, lay down. Like Donovan said, this has definitely been a week, y'all. I have my COT trip this Friday. Okay, what does COT stand for? I know that's something like JLTC, so you gotta let me know. Jada said it was a good week. It had its trials, but we here, right? Of course, of course, of course. So yeah. Bree, what's up, Bree? What's up, Bree? She said, hey, how you feeling? How you feeling? Bree, tell us how your week been so far. Like I said, y'all, it's been a week, but we here. You know what I'm saying? We here. Jamie, happy winning Wednesdays. Happy winning Wednesdays. Jamie said, I'm so tired of this week. Jamie, I already know. And it's only Wednesday. Like, it's only Wednesday. So I can already understand how tired you are. Donovan said cadet overnight training. It's a 2 day trip where we get to bond. Okay, I like that. We ain't had that in my JLTC. I wish you had something like that. I think we had camp, but it was like for a week. Like we went to like Virginia and we was there for a week. Dante said yes, his whole day is basically gone after practice. It's basically gone after practice, but I got an early dual enrollment class at Morgan this Friday, so I'm so excited for that. Shout out to you, Dante, for getting the early enrollment. I like that. I like it. I like it. Jimmy said, "Well, we all good, of course, of course." Jada Dora said, "This week has definitely been a good week. Just launched my teeth whitening and gym business, and just celebrate my birthday. Shout out to you." Okay, starting a business. I ain't never heard nobody say they starting a teeth whitening business and a gym business. Like, I think I need to come to you. Like, let me get my pearly whites done by you. I need you. And happy belated birthday to you as well. So congratulations on that. But yeah, guys. Okay, everybody week has been. Everybody had a week. Everybody had good weeks. Everybody had an okay week. That's definitely how we going to get it. Dante said, "Oh, what's your Instagram? I would like to support. Definitely. Drop your Instagram in the chat. We want some people to support." Donovan said, "Yes, of course, of course, of course." All right, guys. So look, y'all know how it is when it comes to September. Like September is Suicide Prevention Month, and I basically wanted to give this day today to talk about how strong mental health it is to youth and teenagers. So we have a special guest coming on today. We're gonna bring her on. We're gonna let her introduce herself, let her know her credentials, who she is, and basically talk to her about mental health. Okay, guys. So let's bring her on.
Hey
Hey, how are
everyone.
you?
Hey, I'm great. Um, Hi, my name is Mariel, and I'm so excited to be here with all the change makers here in Baltimore, all the heartbeats. so
Yes,
excited.
yes, yes. So just basically tell us what you do, where you from, and how you get involved in mental health.
Yeah, I'd love to. So I'm from Frederick, Maryland, but I've
Mm,
been in Baltimore, came out here for college and never left. Um, and yeah, I am a licensed clinical social worker. I went to UMBC and then UMB for my master's. Um, Started working out of the gate with youth and foster care, and then worked in a middle school setting, Booker T. Washington Middle School, over on McCullough for 5 years, and then started working with Dr. K at the Collaborative, the
we
school
love,
social work.
yes, we love Dr.
Yes,
K. We love
so
Dr. K.
she's amazing. Yeah, so proud to be working with her on all the cool projects. Do a lot of the behind the scenes support for Haya, and for all the other awesome stuff that Dr. K is doing currently. So yeah, that's a
Yes,
little bit
yes,
about me.
yes. And you say you have your LCSWs.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
that's
LCSWC.
that's what I'm striving for. Like that's exactly what I'm in school for,
Oh,
psychology.
right.
Like I want to be a clinical therapist, but like y'all didn't tell me like these classes was like this. Like these is just undergrad. Like
Oh
these are
my gosh.
like I'm going to
The undergrad ones really, especially the psych ones, like the one you were talking about, my psych research class in undergrad. Whew. That was a struggle. It was a
That's what I'm
struggle, but
saying. Like I don't even know, but like, I'm gonna get through it. I'm gonna get through it. I know I am.
oh yeah,
So
totally.
basically, just tell us like, well, how did you get involved with like mental? Like, what was like? How did you know you wanted to be involved with being a therapist? Like, what struck out for you?
Oh yeah. So as a teenager, I was lucky and had a really great mentor that saw a lot in me, and like saw that I was the type of person that really liked to be there for others and put a lot of weight and value in mental health. And they were like, "Hey, you should pursue this as a career, like full time," and introduced me to social work. And yeah, I think I was honestly in middle school when I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. This is the stuff that I think
Oh,
is I really care about, and I think the world
right,
needs more of, and to be talking
right.
more about. And yeah, so that's kind of how I got started on my path. But yeah.
Man, and like I understand like when you say, put a lot of value into other people's feelings and things like that. So this brings me to like one of the questions I had for you too. Like, so I understand like, you see people that you want to help that is in need. You know what I'm saying? You want to be there for people. But sometimes, and one of these things I also talk about in one of my psych classes as well, is sometimes like how hard, like I know it's hard that you have to hear other people's stories and listen to that baggage and listen to, them coming out to you. But how do you handle that too with your personal life and not take that home? Because that was one of the main discussions that we had, like, or putting other people's feelings first before you put yours. So can you basically talk to us about that?
Oh man, that is such a good question. And honestly, like it's a lifelong thing. It's not like a switch, like here's the 3 quick tips to have you master a work-life balance and being able to like compartmentalize things, but it really is reflecting on like one time a mentor, and it honestly may have been Dr. K, told me early on in my career, like you can't pour from an empty cup. Like
Mm-hmm.
in
I
order
heard
to
that a
show
lot.
up for people in the way that they deserve to be showed up to, you have to take care of yourself and make sure that you're in a good place, um, so that you can be that person that can listen and hold weight in the stories and like witness people when they are experiencing really tough situations, um, and be able to be that support. So yeah, like making sure that when you are taking time for yourself, when you're setting boundaries, like I'm not going to look at my email past 8
Mm-hmm.
p.m. or whatever it is, like reminding yourself that's in service of my clients and the people that I show up for every day.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, Jada said, I love that quote. It's so
Thank you,
humbling,
Taylor.
but so inspiring. Definitely, definitely. And I understand, like, becoming a licensed clinical therapist, just, having that under your belt, but also got to realize that you're still a human yourself and that you still have problems yourself. So, like, can you talk to us about, like, what is it like? Can you be a therapist but still have a therapist?
Oh yeah, I actually, whenever and anyone new comes into the field, like they're just about to start practicing as a therapist, and they ask for advice, I always say, are you in therapy yourself, or have you been recently? Because being on the other side of that desk and having the experience of a client, I feel like makes you a better therapist in a lot of
Mm,
ways. And
okay.
like you said, like you have to honor that we all have the stuff that we're working on. We're all growing and putting work on ourselves. And so by having a therapist, like you have a built-in accountability person that can help you with reach those goals as a therapist. And it's also just great to have that sounding board because, like you said, you hear a lot of stuff that's really traumatic and hard and sad in
Mm-hmm.
that role. And if you don't have anybody to turn to then and talk to, it will build up and could down the line like impact you, impact your clients, all that stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely a therapist can have a
Okay.
therapist.
See, yeah, I was understanding like, if you're a therapist, you should know how to handle your own problems because you have everybody else's problems. But it's like, what if a therapist was
Right? Wouldn't
working
that
with
be
a therapist
nice?
too? You know what I'm saying? So okay, I get it. It's like in my head, I think therapists are the superpowers. Like they got superpowers. Like they can save everybody, but you know, they
Mm,
always can't. You know what I'm saying? And you gotta find that
right.
right therapist, dude. Like you gotta find the right therapist. Like you can't just be going on out here, all just having all types of fun, all crazy, and just getting the therapist out of nowhere. And then you get with that therapist, you guys can't bond, or you guys can't have a professional relationship. So definitely, like you got to be able to find your therapist. It might take like 1 or 2 changing your
Mhm.
therapist. Like you might have to change them once or twice. I know I did, and I was comfortable with the one
Right.
I had, and then what I'm saying, like I moved into college and things like that. So definitely make sure you be able to keep that therapist. Trust your therapist. Actually bond with the therapist as well. But let's talk about how mental health is impacted in the Baltimore cities and like Baltimore city schools, and you like also transferring into college, like just coming out of a pandemic. Now it's endemic, but like still, like how is the mental health affecting the youth today?
Yeah, I would say, the pandemic is a huge piece that drastically impacted the health or mental health for a lot of teenagers in Baltimore.
Mhm.
I can speak especially of, Booker T and like my experience there and like all of the amazing students that I worked with, seventh grade and like a lot of honestly the teen years, but definitely those early middle school years. That's where you're
Mm,
learning how to have social relationships. Like you're really like you've had friends before, but friendships become deeper and more complex, and
mm,
those social interactions that you're learning as a teenager, and to have that completely uprooted and put online and like not have the opportunity to talk to your peers and hear their perspective on things. Like I think that it really hurt and caused a lot of isolation. And we know that feelings of isolation can lead to depression. They can exacerbate depression, especially in teenagers. And so I definitely heard from a lot of my kids that year that it's really hard. Like school was, never easy, but this makes it even harder. The fact that I can't giggle with my girlfriend at lunch and make the day go by a little faster or, you know, see my teachers and connect with them in
mhm.
person. Like, I think that was a huge hit. But
Definitely,
yeah.
man. Yeah, because I knew that pandemic, like it hit crazy. Like it came out of nowhere.
Oh my
I
gosh.
remember like it was yesterday. I had a game. We had a game that day, and I was coaching. I had a game that day with the girls, and I had to come home real quick to basically, get dressed. So I was in high school myself, so I was in high school. Got out of high school a little bit early because the principal knew I had to go coach. He was like, "All right, just go ahead, go home a little early." So I went home early, got dressed. As I'm leaving out, I'm like, the league manager calling me, and I'm like, "Oh boy!" So I'm like, "Hello." It's like, yeah, man, the game's canceled because of that virus. I was like, okay, so when is it rescheduled? He's like, we gotta see how long the virus stays, probably next week. I was like, all right, cool, cool, cool. So I had to make phone calls, cancel everything. But like next week came, still there. And we got to that,
Mhm.
and we got to that, and then we got to that, and then they shut everything down. And I was just like, oh, this is crazy. Like this is insane.
Yeah.
And I know it
Which
impacted a lot of people's mental health too, a lot.
totally. Which that I feel like the unknowing, like not being able to know and like control what's going on, that also is a huge trigger for folks, right? Like I know it was for me. Like, I was like you, where I was like, wait, are we actually shutting down? Are we going to go back next week? What's going on? And I was hearing different messages from different people. And, you know, that can trigger that response of like, this is such a stressful situation. I don't know what's going to be, my days are going to look like in the future. I can't predict what, you know, my social network and support's going to look like. What am I going to do?
Yeah. We didn't know we was going back outside anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it was crazy.
Yeah. And so, of course, that was like extremely triggering for adults, teenagers, everybody. Like, that sense of a lack of control on what was going on. Like, it was really tough.
Yo, we have a question also in the chat too. Jada says, yes, allowing yourself grace to be vulnerable sometimes. Who does the same thing as you? Is that a full circle moment?
Like with a therapist going to a therapist? Yeah, totally. I think so. Like, I think you hit the nail on the head. That vulnerability is so important. And I think kind of what you're getting at here too is like the experience as a therapist of having to be vulnerable reminds you the weight of what you're asking from your clients, right? Because when someone does come into a session with you and they open up and they spill your heart, you have to be able to honor what a gift that is, right? That they are trusting you with that like emotional weight. And so, yeah, when you're a therapist and you do it in your own therapy, you're like, oh, right, this is a huge thing that my clients are honoring me with. And like, I need to make sure that I'm stepping up and responding in the best, most supportive way for them, because that's what I want in this moment from my own therapist, right? But yeah, that's a great question, Jaden.
Dante said he was talking about when COVID happened. He was like, I remember when I was in the MSO, it was a competition against half the schools in Baltimore. My school made us a national, so we wasn't able to go because of COVID. Man, I know, man. Like Donovan said, his school was in Poly was in second place, right behind Roland Park, and he was so upset. Man, Jamie said, I remember being so happy when the pandemic first started until it lasted over a month. LOL. Facts. Because at first I was like, oh, you know, a little bit out of school. We out of school for a little bit. And then it was like, oh, yeah, school closed for like the rest of the school year. I was like, oh, hold up now. Hold up now. Like, you tell me I can't go play basketball anymore? Like, I can't go outside. And it was like outside shut down. I was like, oh, wow. So, yeah, definitely. Tay Bands, what's up? Tay Bands, what's up? How you feeling? How you feeling? How you feeling? It wasn't Poly. It was Vanguard. I was in middle school. Oh, wow. Vanguard. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
See, and the funny thing is, when COVID first happened, I didn't believe it. I was like, a virus. Anybody get sick? They probably got a little flu. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't really that serious. But then once I started seeing how rapidly everybody was doing it, was getting it, I was like, oh, this is crazy. Like, all right, it might just actually be like a virus. And then Donald Trump was the president at the time. He shut everything down. Like, everything got shut down. Then he started sending the stimulus checks out. And then so you just seen every website crashing now because that's the only way you can buy is offline. But then even offline, half of that stuff closed too. So I was like, you really couldn't do nothing. Like, everybody was just sitting in the house, just like not doing nothing. Like,
sitting in the house. And oh, sorry. Hold on. Sorry if you can hear the ambulance in the background loudly.
No, you're fine. And I was just saying, like, I know it affected a lot of, you know, the youth that was like in middle school last year, and then going to high school, because when around the COVID time hit, like that was sort of the transition part of, you know, like you said, you know, having that social relationships, you know, being able to be, you know, outside and having relationships with them. So, you know, basically, you know, by being this last year, you know, for me, it affected me to the point of I went to Douglas and I was a senior. And once I was a junior when it happened, but like my whole senior year, it was just like closed as a COVID. And I didn't know graduation. I was very, very much upset about that. I was very, very upset about that. Like that was all I wanted. I was like, all right, okay, my diploma, graduate high school, like go over to Coppin State University, walk across stage, call your name, everybody stand up, applaud. None of that. You walk across stage. Nobody's in the stands. You got a mask on. take your mask down, take your picture, and then walk off. And then that was that. Like it affected my mental health a lot because it was like I
Totally.
lost my whole senior year out of high school. You know what I'm saying? Then I went right into college. Like I honestly
Yeah.
thought my college was going to be shut down because of COVID. No, they was like, oh no, I still get to come. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Like no closure, right? Like that's so hard to not have any, like be able to actually honor the transition that you're making. Like I saw Jada was saying that too about her senior year. And, for my eighth graders, when I was at Booker T, I know a lot of them had the same kind of feelings. And at first, like the principal was like, we're not going to do anything. Like we can't chance it. Like we can't, like they're just going to have to drive by, or we'll mail out the diplomas. That's the most we can do. And me and a few other staff that like the mental health team on the school were like, absolutely not. We have to do something, even if it's like what we ended up doing was like one of those kind of drive-through graduations where people drove through either in cars or walk through, and we had like balloons set up and stuff like that. And I mean, that wasn't nearly what they were expecting. Like that wasn't as good by any means, but like there's no way you have to honor it. Like you have to give it its moment, or people are just going to feel like it's left lingering. Like it's going to be harder for people to make that transition. Like, nah, we had to do something. But
definitely, man, definitely, because it was upsetting. It was upsetting to a lot of seniors. But then we still upset about that. I know a couple people that's still upset at class 2020 that's still upset. And like I was telling my friend today, like I was like, what did I say today? I was in the cafeteria and I was like, I said, what I say? I said something, but then it was like, I was like, I'm all 2020. I'm like, hold up, it's 2022. Wait a minute, like them 2 years went by like this. Like that's how you know it really had some type of effect, because I didn't like I know, but like it just went so quick. Like 2020 was gone, and then 2021 was just I don't even really remember 2021. That's how bad it was. Like 2021 was just gone. Now it's 2022, but it'll be 2023, and I'm like, I was born in 02. Like the years is going by fast and fast, and I'm like, oh wow, like. I just couldn't understand it. And like, yeah, it's like like Dante said, like the virtual world as well. Like, how do you feel like the virtual world affected the mental health of the students? Because I heard a lot of opinions, a lot of people saying that a lot of youth are basically not prepared for the in person anymore, or basically that the online school didn't really help out. So, how do you feel about that? What's your opinion about the mental health aspect in that one?
totally. Like I definitely saw it at Booker T, but being around peers and being able to talk to and like have community with other teenagers is such an important part of development, right? Like mental health. And so not having access to that, like I saw my sixth graders that were coming in that never got to have like a full sixth grade year in person come to seventh grade, and they felt stunted. They're like, how am I, halfway through my middle school career and I have no friends in my class? Like, I don't know any of these people. They were just black boxes on my screen for the last year. Like, so yeah, I think connection and community is a huge part of developing mental health, right? Like finding our social support and people that we can lean on. That helps us honestly develop our own identity, right? Is through our friends and our peers and the relationships that we make. And so I definitely affected people. And a lot of the teenagers that had to, go with throughout the year without those relationships, it did take a little bit longer for them to feel comfortable. Like they were really, truly like in the seventh grade. Like, I don't think I would talk to students and they'd be like, yeah, I know I'm technically in seventh grade, but I don't feel like it. Like, I don't think I'm ready, or would be questioning it. And I think it was a lot due to COVID and not having access to their friends and making memories and stuff like that.
Yeah, that we can definitely say that. I can come to agreement that we can say that the 2020 pandemic affected a lot of people's social relationships. A lot of people turned back into introvert, became introverted, and not coming out that shell anymore. So I feel as though that we just need like a big block party for everybody that was just in the 2020 pandemic. You know what I'm saying? And just like all just come back and just bond. Just
I said
bond.
that.
Yeah,
in the meeting, I was like, what if we just didn't do a curriculum for like half a year and we just all the students came back and just like got to hang out and we just had fun and focused on mental health for just like a whole half a year.
facts,
What
facts.
would that look like? How would that change? Like if we just told math to just hold on for just a few months and focused on our mental health and getting us back.
Yeah, because I think a lot of it, like, because how COVID ended, like it's not ended. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not totally ended because there's still cases that's rising. But like the way
Yeah.
COVID led down, like the way COVID numbers dropped down, and everything started reopening back up, and it was just like the world was just trying to put us back into drive gear without putting us into a little bit of like changing the oil, putting some more gas in the car.
Mhm.
Like a lot of our mental health wasn't ready for the new upcoming outside of the pandemic. If you get what I'm saying, like our mental
Completely.
health was kind of drained. It was down. Like seeing therapists. I know trying to get therapists, going from seeing your therapist every week to in person to talking about, well, we gotta be on a Zoom call this week, we gotta be on Google Meets, or we gotta be, a Skype call, things like that. That can really upset a lot of patients as well, making sure that mental health is like, talking online is okay. Like in my family on Hearts My Hearts Miles family, the whole Hearts Miles family, talking to them every other Wednesday is great. But seeing them in person every Wednesday is even better, because you have the
Mhm.
energy, you have the vibes, you have the love, the feeling of being around your family, besides, talking to somebody on the camera every other week, or, talking to things like that. So it's just more a simple fact that the world just the COVID numbers declined, and then like the world was just like, yep, let's get back up on the road and let's keep on doing, like, and I think we just needed to give it more time. Like I believe
Yeah.
everybody that was affected, I believe everybody that was in 2020 pandemic just needed therapists. And my point is that, like, I
Yeah.
just think that I think that as well, like so bad.
Totally. And transitions are just always a hard time. You know what I mean? Like transitions bring up so much in us and can be huge trend like triggers for mental health. And the fact that, like you said, that transition was handled like so abruptly and we were expected, even though there was still a lot of terrible and scary stuff happening, we were supposed
Facts,
to kind of,
facts.
put a smile
Yeah,
on and get right back to it, which I think like that term of like cognitive dissonance, like what you're seeing and what you're experiencing not lining up with your expectations in the
facts.
day to
Yes,
day,
it's just
like that can have a lot serious ramifications on mental health. And I feel like we all had to experience that and to some degree still are. We don't talk about all the how there's a lot of stuff going on in the world that is pretty awful and can sometimes you're just supposed to come in and keep a bright smile on your face and appear happy, and people don't acknowledge it that we're going through a really tough time in history.
yes. Like I think America just needs its own therapist. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I don't think we're ready. Like our mental health is not at the state that it needs to be. You understand what I'm saying? As far as, especially with like, adults, but also like our baby youth as well. Like, our 11-year-olds, our 12 years old, 13-year-olds. Like we have to be mindful that they are still young, but their minds are developing by the day. So they soak everything up in like a sponge. So when COVID
Mhm.
happened, or just even seeing mom and dad can't go to work anymore, and be in the house and be watching TV all the time, and I can't go to school to see my friends. Like you gotta understand how that affected them as well. And by them being so young, they might not know how to express that feelings or express their emotions. Because like I said, they're still young. Mine's developing by the day. So they learning stuff. It was new to them. Wearing a mask. Like I know my little brother was like, what is a mask? Like me personally, I never seen a mask like that. Like I seen it probably like and like your Chicago Med shows, or your Grey's Anatomy shows, they do surgery, things like that. But like wearing it every day was the norm. Like that started to be the
Mhm.
norm. Like you could not go out to you know how you go outside and you have your keys and your wallet and your phone. When it was pandemic, you had your keys, your wallet, your phone, and your mask. Like you needed
Yes.
the mask to go outside. If you had no mask, you can't go outside. Like you know what I'm saying? What I'm saying? Like it was
That
just
hand
so.
sanitizer
Oh
too.
yeah, stuff, hand sanitizer, Lysol, gloves. It was the whole. They
Mhm.
was getting the whole 9 yards. Stores. What was it? Lysol was sold out. Disinfectant wipes. Like they was going crazy. Everything was just going crazy. And that, like I said, it
Mhm.
affected a lot of mental health. It brought a lot of people down, and like the world just started to basically, do the incline on the steep of a hill, and it wasn't working. It wasn't working
No.
at all. I feel as though today that a lot of people are still dealing with the hurt that they had from the pandemic now and taking it out
Yeah.
now. It's coming out now. So, what are some tips that you advise for us to use now? Because we still have that trauma that happened to us in 2020. So how can we get that trauma out of us in 2022, 2023?
Yeah. And I think what you said too acknowledges a good point that sometimes you do need a little space from the traumatic. Like you have to be out of the stress and the traumatic incidents to
Mm-hmm.
be able to look back on it, right? And really reflect on it from a healthy place. Like, not always, but I think in this case, it does make sense that a lot of people are just starting to kind of process everything that has been going on for the last 2 years, because you can so easily be in survival mode, like fight, flight, freeze, and responding to those everyday stresses without like looking deeper and processing, well, oh, how is this impacting my self-image and coping skills? Like that's so true. And I would say, like, as far as advice goes, I think heartbeats are awesome at this, but it's all about building up those healthy coping mechanisms, especially now when you're younger, because then they become ingrained and they're easier to do. Like finding out what works for you, whether it's listening to music, having a therapist is always awesome. Your
Mm-hmm.
social support, like identifying the things that contribute to your positive mental health, and having not only like a plan for every day of how am I
Right.
going to maintain like a healthy brain, but also what am I going to do when I'm stressed, when something really hard happens, and having like an emergency plan or backup plan for this kind of things, I think can be really helpful and just help you feel a little bit more secure. If you're like, I know how I would respond in this situation. If I'm starting to feel depressed, I know that I need to do these things to take care of myself, whether it's I'm going to spend time with this friend or this family member that always makes me feel better about who I am. Or, like I said, like listening to music, journaling, art, whatever it is for you that sets your heart on fire. Like those kind of things, and making sure that you're connecting with yourself and taking care of yourself during this time, because a lot of pressure gets put on youth to be
To keep going,
constantly,
to keep
yeah,
going, to be consistent,
yeah, keep
and
going,
self care
keep
is
going.
important. Self care is very important. And that was definitely one of the main things too. That was also an affection when it came to the COVID, because a lot of self care can have been done, like haircuts, or a lot of men had to learn how to cut down hair. You know what I'm saying? Like me, I didn't come on here. I put a little do rag on. Hey, my hot smells know about me. I put the do rag on in the heartbeat. I'd be good. Like I ain't getting no hair. I can't come on hair. So like I was a lot. Like self care was a lot. Like females, I know they couldn't go to a nail salon, get the nails done. They had to learn how to do their own nails, or they had to go to one of the in-home nail specialists. Like it was a lot. Like I know it was. And
Yeah.
you know, for youth that don't even know how to use, don't even know what self care is, and then once they had the pandemic, still didn't know what it was to actually take care of that self when the pandemic hit, it was even more crucial. And also, Rowan made a good point as well when she said, she's still working to this day to be better, but what she was, but to be like how she was before the pandemic, and even better than that. Yes, that's the same thing I said for myself as
Mhm.
well. Like before the pandemic, I was rocky. Like I had my moments. Like I was happy and hype and everything, but after the pandemic, I just became a whole new person. Like I don't even know, like a whole new type of person. Like I developed to, I came accustomed to the world as being inside and being by myself and things like that, or just making sure I know who I am. Yes, and Tony, you made a good point. He said the pandemic helped me find my purpose. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, in a pandemic it did, because before the pandemic started, I had my business. But once the pandemic started, it was just like, oh yeah, this is grind time. This is time to, basically find out what new things you want to do, what things you want to add up. And then also I was going to college, so I was getting prepared for that as well. So definitely helped me find my purpose as well. Jada said in-home nail specialist. Yes, I mean I don't know what they be calling them things. Look, like you go to the lady house and she gets nails done. I don't know. I don't know. Dante said, he said, I'm doing good for now. The pandemic helped me step out my shell, started my business, and reaching out for help when I needed it. Definitely. definitely.
Yeah.
Jada said, definitely stepping out my shell and reaching out for help. Definitely. And then Jimmy said, the pandemic as a whole has its pros and its cons, and it's very for everyone. Yes,
It's
it
true.
did. It did. And I feel as though that it was more cons than pros because, a lot of coming outside and being able to have that social relationship, you need that. I learned that
Mhm.
as say classes, like you need to be outside with other people. You need to be interacting with people. Like that is something that you need on a day-to-day basis. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people don't think they may need it, but you need it. Like to make you, I can't say how to make you feel, but like to, better uplift your spirits and better be more around people, you need to basically interact with people, a little, hey, how you doing? Like just hospitality. That's the word I was looking for. Like, cause down here in North Carolina, you got it all day. Like you driving down the street, somebody waving. I'm like, you probably don't even know them.
Yep.
A nice couple sitting down on the steps, you drive past, they wave at you, or they honk your horn, you don't even know them. You know what I'm saying? But like in Baltimore, Maryland, you walk past somebody, they just looking at you all sideways, like, why you looking at me? And I'm
Mhm.
like, I didn't even do anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't even do anything. So that's just what I just understand. Like, have the hospitality. Be nice to yourself, but also be nice to others as well, because it's okay to be by yourself, but it's not okay to be stuck up. If you get what I'm saying, it's
Yeah,
okay to be
yeah.
yourself, but it's not okay to be stuck up. Um, I
Totally.
got this one. I got this one specific, let's say, like headline I want to talk about. And it comes to as far as like trauma bonding. Can you
Mm.
talk more about like how trauma bonding is and like how you can cite the signs of trauma bonding?
More like, yeah. So like codependency to a degree, is that kind of what you mean, like with trauma
Like,
bonding,
okay,
like
let me
when
give
you
an
have a
example.
traumatic experience and
Like
like
when you
you develop.
and someone else have like y'all both have trauma, and that's
Mhm.
why y'all became friends because y'all know y'all can basically balance off each
Oh,
other. Like yeah, that's
yeah.
that's
Okay.
that's trauma.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Well, I mean, that makes a lot of sense, right? Like when you go through traumatic experiences, you develop these coping mechanisms, these survival skills, really, that because as humans, we're really adaptive. And like, that's what our brains want us to do is for us to survive. And so people and folks that have gone through incredibly traumatic things will gain these skills and certain survival aspects. And it's really like, for instance, one thing that is a survival skill is emotional intelligence, right? Like being able to read and predict other people's emotions. That can be a coping skill you develop when that's really important for you as a teen, to be able to predict other people's emotions and placate them potentially to make sure that you stay safe, right? And so if you're a really emotionally intelligent person that can like pick up on other people's cues really easily and tell how they're feeling, it's going to be really hard for you to connect with someone who isn't as aware, right, of their emotions. And because you may want that skill reciprocated some of the time. So that's definitely one aspect. Like two people who have been through a traumatic experience may be able to connect in the fact that they're both actively reading each other and where they are emotionally in the moment. So that's definitely one aspect I could see of how trauma like brings us together and um, it can change your perspective. Like a lot of folks said, how COVID impacted them, like it kind of drove them inward and made them more reflective on themselves, whether it led to finding their purpose and their developing their business or whatever coping skills. Like I also think that if you're someone that has put in a lot of work of knowing who you are and what your purpose is, you're naturally going to be drawn to other people who have that figured out, that aren't insecure in themselves and their purpose as well. Like I think
Mhm.
that is also a big piece.
Yes. And anybody have any questions? If anybody have any questions, please put in the chat so we'll get to your questions as well. But also, I wanted to talk about, how can you when you're okay. So I understand, like, we both talk about you being a therapist, and you're already a licensed therapist. So you got that, you got that degree, you got that. I'm upcoming, but like I know you see people that need help. but they don't want to take the initiative to get the help. What is some advice that you can tell any youth that's watching this, or anybody that's going through, that are scared to come out, or basically don't know where to start and how to start, but they understand that they have a problem and they need to talk about it? Because I know, for me, when I was younger, I did not like to come out and talk to anybody about my emotions or my problems. Didn't even want a therapist. I didn't want that. I didn't want to. I felt like I had my own problems, and then by being a male, I was supposed to deal with my own problems. Not cry, be independent, be strong, and hold everything in, because I got to protect my family and not let my family see that I'm weak. But over time came, it's just like it's only so much a person can handle, and until they reach a breaking point. And once a person reach a breaking point, and I really deeply believe into this, once a person like reach a breaking point and they really keep saying like it's enough, once that person reached that breaking point, it's nothing you can do to bring that person out of that. Because at that moment, it's like they are done. You know what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying? Like, they have had so much they can deal with, also by, being a good person, by helping somebody else out, but not putting somebody else's feelings first, taking their feelings last, or you understand what I'm saying? Or to basically, being there for others when, they're not there for you as well, or, having a lot of things that, happen to you, but you don't really, you put a cover over top of it and you just let it marinate, and you don't bring it out. You understand what I'm saying? Like you said early in the beginning, you can't pour into somebody else's cup with an empty cup. And that's what that's what I was doing a lot. Like, I was pouring nothing in that cup, but you was going to get the last little bit of it, and I was pouring and pouring and pouring and pouring and pouring. And as I'm pouring so much into an empty cup, and a lot of people don't realize, if somebody, say for instance, you guys got 2 glass jars, right? That cup empty, your cup empty, and you try to pour in that cup. Not only are you hurting yourself, you're hurting them as well, because you have nothing to give them. And then once you pour it into that cup, nothing you pour into that cup, you bring it on the baggage of you, so onto them as well. And then that's where the trauma bonding comes into play. That's where y'all both had that bonding of that trauma, where as though y'all feel as though that y'all are receptible because y'all dealing with the same emotions. When that's not the case, when both sides need to seek help from a full cup. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you got a full cup and you trying to pour into an empty cup, you know what I'm saying? You definitely, and I feel this well, like you can tell me if I'm wrong, but once you try to pour into that cup, you definitely gonna lose some of your juice. You're gonna lose some of it. You're gonna lose some of your coffee, tea, whatever it is. You're gonna lose some of it. So it's gonna hurt. Like taking in other people's problems, and not we'll say problems, or taking other people's confidentiality as far as like secrets or baggage, taking everything in from them, it's going to hurt you too, because there's going to be ways that therapists like you that want to help them in certain ways, but professionally can't. You know what I'm saying? Or you might see somebody, or like you might see somebody in your family, or you might see somebody like you work with that that might need therapy, but they don't want to take the initiative to go get therapy themselves. So it's like, what can you do? You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you do as a therapist? Whereas, you see people that need help, they need help, they know they need help, but they don't want to take the initiative to get the help.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think like it goes back to even what Jada said earlier about vulnerability, is you have to honor like how hard it can be to go to therapy, especially when you aren't feeling good. Like, I also saw that I think it was Roman in the chat that was talking about like how therapy can feel so invasive and prying, and it can, like, it demands a lot of vulnerability, and they're asking you about things that you've probably been shoving down on purpose, right? Like, there's a reason that you're not openly talking about these things. It's because they hurt. And so first of all, like, as a therapist, I think it's super important to acknowledge the thing that you're asking is hard, and not everybody's going to be in the place yet where they're ready to talk about it. And to a degree, it can't be forced. But like you said, if you wait to see someone or start talking to someone until you really hit a breaking point where you feel awful or you're really, really depressed, it may make it even harder to call the therapist, to summon the, we use this term in mental health and sometimes medical too, like spoons, the spoon metaphor of like, and sorry if you've already heard this, but you have a certain amount of mental and emotional energy every day, and everyone has a different amount. And so someone used a metaphor of like, you have when you wake up, you have a certain amount of spoons when you get out of the bed, like, and you use spoons to like go to a school, to talk to your friends, like everything takes output, right? And you have to decide where you're going to put your energy in every day. But when you are struggling with depression and anxiety, you wake up with fewer spoons. And when you are severely depressed and severely anxious, that number decreases even more. So things like telling your parent, I need to talk to a therapist, or looking up therapists in your area, take way more time and energy than they would normally, right? Like, because you don't have as much currency in the bank, really. And so my advice would be, if you don't feel like, if you're like, this is something I really can't do right now, and here are my clear reasons, okay. But if this is something you're entertaining, I would say start working on it and consider going into therapy before things get to a point where it would be even harder for you to start. Because you also mentioned earlier the importance of finding a therapist to connect with that can make you feel more comfortable and less like it's prying and, you know, someone picking at you. And so, like I always tell my clients, therapy is kind of like dating in a way. You're going to go on a few first dates before you find a match, right? Like, and you should treat it that way. Just because the person has a license doesn't mean they're the therapist for you. Everybody has different styles. Everybody comes with different like communication patterns and stuff. And so finding a therapist, that can take a lot of energy to go through like 3 or 4 intakes and audition a few therapists before you find the person. Like, it can take a lot. And so my advice would be, at least put yourself out there as much as you can, and recognize that what you're doing is hard. And so what I always tell my clients is like, remember to reward yourself after this stuff. If you're going to do something hard, like making a call about a therapist, like calling an office and trying to get an appointment, have something fun immediately after as a reward. Even if it's just walking down to the corner and like getting an ice cream cone, or getting, you know what I mean, like an icy, or watching your favorite show or something like that. Like, have it worked out in your head that I'm going to get a reward for doing something hard, because just as humans, that just, it trains our brain better. Like, that when I do hard things, I get a reward. Like, even if it's something that doesn't have an immediate reward built in. So, and it's just nice to yourself. Be nice to yourself, you know?
Yeah, be nice to yourself, but also be nice to others as well. Right. I'm telling you guys, like, that right there, like, you can't do that. Like, you got to take care of yourself, especially before you try to take care of someone else, because it's just not going to work. It's not. And, you know, you don't want to force nothing, because if you force it, it might break or it might repel. You know, you might force something to be there that's not there, and then you guys clash heads and then repel. And you guys don't want that, you know what I'm saying? And then especially we was talking about like the intakes with the therapist. Like, I had to do a couple intakes, and I'm not ashamed. I didn't like them. I'm just letting you know that right now. I didn't like them. And so I found that right one, and I was like, yep, that's my therapist right there. Yep.
Yeah.
And there's also sometimes where I was like, the first intake, I was like, yeah, you're my therapist. I like this one. You know what I'm saying? So you got to be able to be comfortable with your therapist and able to talk to your therapist, because, you know, have you ever had a client where as though, you know, the client wasn't as comfortable, so they wouldn't tell you so much, or like, you know, you can't be as much help as you want to be because you don't feel as though they're going to take the advice that you give them?
Yeah. So like one practice that I have is, you know, I'm not the kind of therapist. I tell my clients, when you come in, we're going to just look at your coping skills. What are you doing for self-care? And like, if you don't have coping skills and self-care set up, we are not going to start talking about your trauma on session 1 and 2. Like, absolutely not. Because that's really setting up a client for hurt and harm.
No, not the guest speaker then.
Is when you're like, oh.
Hello?
Let me know when I'm back. Am I back?
There you go. I think you're back. Yep.
Oh, bummer. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I was like, you going to roll, and then he just got froze, and I was like, oh no, keep going.
Was the last thing you heard? Like, I don't poke and prod, like, because they have to have coping skills to lean on, because they're going to leave my office or the Zoom chat, and they're still going to have these big feelings. And if they have no way or system to help them with those feelings, then I'm setting them up for failure and more harm. And so that's something for me, like, that is a huge thing. And, you know, sometimes people come in and they're like, well, I want to talk about this right now. And they don't love that I'm like, well, we got to put the brakes on for at least a little bit so I can make sure we're in a good place. And, you know, I've also had clients come in that are like, style wise, weren't a good fit because they were like very solution focused. Like, I want 3 tips and tricks to get rid of my depression by the end of the business month. And I'm like, yeah, but, you know, there's a lot of other stuff going on here, man. Like,
sir, ma'am, and sir. It ain't gonna work like that. This is not overnight, okay?
We're doing real work over here. Like, we're looking back at your whole life. Like, I'm not just here for the minute and the quick tricks like that you could find in a self-help book. But yeah.
Yes, Jada asked this question. Do you know any therapists who believe that as well, who as well as you can recommend? Same question.
Oh,
like, can we get you as our therapist? Like, can you be the Hearts and Mouths therapist with Dr. K? Like, we ready to book her up. Like, come on now.
Right. Well, right now, since I started working with Dr. K in March, I stopped taking private clients, so I'm not currently practicing. But if I ever do start up, I'll definitely let y'all know. But I do have a lot of therapists that I trust wholeheartedly. I'm lucky enough that even my blood sister, she's a full-time therapist, and she's amazing.
That's dope. Well, you and your sister are therapists together.
Yeah. My poor mom had two social worker therapist children. But yeah, so I have a lot of awesome recommendations I can pass along. If you wouldn't mind, Coach, dropping my email in the chat, just shoot me an email and I can send you a few names. I don't have their profile stuff up right away, but I know some great folks.
Yes, that's our email in the chat. That's the email in the chat right there.
Right.
Absolutely. It is. I just really do appreciate, you coming on. It's so crazy. It's like I always want to be a therapist. And like don't get it twisted.
So good.
I'm in my junior year of undergrad. So I gotta go to grad school, but I don't even know. Like, my teacher emailed me. Not my teacher, my professor emailed me yesterday, and was like, "How are you okay in statistics? And if you're not okay, we can drop statistics, and you can get another class, and you can do general studies with a focus in psychology." And I was like, "No, I think I want to stick this out. I like have my degree in psychology, but it's just like, oh, it's just so much, and it's not even." I didn't even get to my capstone project yet. You know what I'm saying? As a senior. And I know once I get there, it's going to be like 15 pages. I ain't never written a 15-page paper yet. Ever. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. Like,
I think you're going to be great. And the good thing about like school to become a psychologist or a social worker is like undergrad kind of stinks, right? Because you're learning the generalist kind of stuff, like a little bit of everything. But then when you get to like masters and and your capstone's probably this too, you can focus on the stuff you really care about, like the special like corners and niches of therapy. And especially the dope part about grad school is like, it's all therapy. You don't have to mess with science of water and the other classes. Like, it's a lot better. But yeah, I mean, the papers will kill you. 15 pages is for real.
Yeah, man. Roman, listen, Roman, I don't want to scare you from going to college. College is a great experience. Love education. Get it. But it's just like, I don't know. 15 pages for a capstone project. Okay. All right. And that's just for undergrad. So wait till I go to math for my master's and everything. And then, because like my dream is to get my undergrad, go to UMD to get my master's, and become a therapist in University of Maryland downtown in Baltimore for a couple of years, and then move out and go to New York. but I want to come back to University of Maryland and just give back to my community and be a black male therapist there, and like that's my dream, that's my dream, that's my goal, that's why I strive every day for it. So I'm gonna do it. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
you
keep
are.
doing it. I'm gonna keep
No
doing
dream
it.
about it. This is it. This is the future. Yeah. If you need anything, let me know too. You got my email too. If you need any
Yes. Oh,
advice or anything.
when it's time to do these exams, I'm be like, so as a
Yeah.
therapist, are you supposed to okay, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
yeah.
Give you all my old licensing cheat sheets. Yes.
Like
More
it's
than
so
happy
much.
to.
I'm taking basic skills of helping right now. That's one of my classes.
Mm.
And we were sitting there talking. Yesterday we had like 5 groups, and we were sitting there talking like, as a therapist, should you give your personal cell phone number out? And it was like, no. And some people was like, well, you can, but like if you could have like a work phone, you know what I'm saying, and you set boundaries. And then somebody was like, well, what if somebody call you 2:00 in the morning? Well, my professor's like, well, what if somebody call you 2:00 in the morning on your work phone? You're not gonna answer then? And then I'd be like, well, yeah, because they call in 2:00 in the morning. Maybe it's an emergency, right? Then she was like, okay, I understand. She was like, all right. She's like, so you don't want to talk? She's like, well, you're not on call. So you're like, say for instance, on the weekends, someone is suicidal and call your phone. What do you do then? And I'm in there like, okay, well, maybe you shouldn't give your phone number out. Like, she's like, as a therapist, no, you do not give your phone number out. You do not. Like, only get your phone number on when you're on call, and the doctors have your phone number and they call them, then they call you. Like, that's it. But you never actually get your phone number out. Another question was like, as a therapist, should you take gifts from your clients? And I was like, I mean, well, a $25 Starbucks gift card won't work for my birthday, but like maybe
Oh my
like maybe like, but then it's like, no. Oh my god, well, my light is very, very dark. Okay, I mean, we got like 4 minutes. Y'all can still see me, right? Okay, cool, great.
I will say
'Cause my
that phone thing though, that like not giving out your phone number does vary from therapist to therapist. Like there has
okay,
to be clear boundaries, and I've seen people who did give out their phone number that shouldn't have because they would like, you know, blur the line and stuff like that. But like a lot of people in private practice, like they may not have a work phone or a work number, and so they'll use either things like Google Voice or like for me in my practice, like we did a lot of safety plans, and that's the big thing too, like with your clients is if you've been seeing them, they know your availability, your boundaries, and like they know, like we on the first session, like we would go through and set up, okay, what happens if you need me and I'm not available because it's in the middle of the night or it's a weekend and I can't talk to you, like what is your plan A, B, and C for how you're going to stay safe during that time, and like you have that agreed upon plan. And like I think that's so important. Like if you're doing that kind of work, I think that in certain situations it can be okay. I always talk it through with my supervisor or the practice lead or whatever to make sure they're comfortable with it. But yeah, it's also just a different time. Like a lot of people, especially when you're working with teens and like teenagers, like they're going to want to text you. Like I want to text my therapist. I don't want to have to call, the office every time to tell them like an update or anything like that. And so, yeah, I think it can go either way, but I get why she said that. Like it is important to have boundaries.
Definitely. Real quick, if you can just basically again just let us know like your information. I think I put your email in the chat. If anybody else want to get in contact with her, please head an email. Again, we appreciate you so much for coming on and talking to us about mental health. But one thing we do before we leave is we give a jewel. So if you can give us like a quick 30-second jewel from basically for this for the session, and then I'll get my jewel and then we'll end it off.
Awesome. Okay. Perfect. So also really quick, I know we're wrapping up, but Jade asked a great question I want to quickly respond to that. Can you take your own style of therapy to your therapist? Yes. If there's something that you specifically want, showing up to that phone consultation or that first intake and being like, hey, this is what I want out of therapy. When a client comes in and they know what they want immediately, beautiful. That never puts me off. I'm always like, yes, thank you for telling me. So great question, Jada. My name is Mariel Pfister, again, licensed clinical social worker, and I have the privilege of working with Dr. K at the Collaborative at the School of Social Work at Maryland. My email's in the chat. Please reach out to me if you want a therapist recommendation. I can send you some great names, or to connect on if you have a specific question about the mental health field. I'd love to help in any way I can. And let's see, a Jewel. There were so many great ones, but really just blown away by some of the folks in the chat. That I think it was Jada that was talking about vulnerability and the importance of vulnerability in a good therapy and in healing. And I think that for me, like the weight, I'm just very reminded by the weight of that ask for vulnerability and mental health, and making sure that I'm showing up and being vulnerable in spaces too. I think that definitely stuck out for me.
Yes. Thank you so much, man. My Jewel is recognize when you need help and take the initiative to get the help. You can't, you can't sit back and complain about, this is so tired, but you don't get no help for it. So guys, if you realize you need help and you want to get help, take the initiative to go get the help. That's it for me. Yes, you deserve it. That's it for me, guys. Happy birthday to you, Zion, too. I saw you in the chat. Definitely didn't forget you. And again, thank you so much for coming on. We'll see you guys next week on Wednesdays. See you guys.
Bye, everyone.